So I'd like to lastly introduce our keynote speaker, Kane Sarhan. Kane is the co-founder of Enstitute, the first national apprenticeship program for the 21st century for careers in business, technology, design, and entrepreneurship. Previously, Kane has launched and run his own magazine, the College Gossip Chronicles, raised over $100,000 for hackny, a nonprofit in New York City, and was the creative director of LocalResponse, a top New York City tech startup. Kane has been named a 2013 Echoing Green Fellow, a 2012 Francis Hesselbein Institute Next Leader of the Future, and Business Insider calls him a top 25 Young Innovator in New York tech. Kane speaks often on education, innovation, and serendipity, and has been featured in the New York Times, PBS, Forbes, CNN, the Huffington Post, and Fast Company. Kane moved to New York City from a small town in Michigan at 18, and a year later decided to give up his deferment at University of Michigan and stay in New York. He enrolled in Pace University. He didn't complete his bachelor's degree here, but we're thrilled to welcome him back. So please help me in welcoming Kane.
Totally fine. Like Bruce said, my name's Kane. I am the co-founder of a nonprofit, and I was at one time a student at Pace University. I actually started my nonprofit because I couldn't seem to graduate Pace and kept dropping out. No fault to Pace at all fault to me and my maybe lack of interest for traditional education. Enough about that, though. What I want to talk about today is my mother. And what I found to be the most important, you could say, 8 words of my life. I'm a really lucky person in that every morning when I woke up, from the time I could read until the day I moved to New York City, I woke up to a note from my mother. Every morning she would wake up and she would, I have 4 other brothers too, so she wrote each one of us a note every morning. And they always were the exact same thing. It was, "Good morning, Kane, I love you so much, I'm so proud of you," or "Good morning, Kane, I'm so disappointed in you for doing this. But, you know, don't forget that you have this soccer practice, or you have to do this after school, or don't forget that we're going on vacation in 2 days." It was this great way for my mom to say good morning to me every day because she worked so much. And what she did is at the end of every note, she signed it a little more, a little less, Mom. And for years, it was just like always her sign off. And finally, when I was 10 or 11 and old enough to ask her, like, what the heck does that mean? She said to me, "Well, if you do a little more and you want a little less, there's nothing in this world that can't make you happy." And until I was 18, 19, 20 years old, those words actually meant nothing to me. I just sort of saw them as this like really cheesy way for my mom to tell me, you know, to sort of sign her notes and encourage me to like do my homework and complain less at home, or to do more chores and want less money for the chores that I did, right? I thought it was this like double psychology thing. Until I turned 20 years old and went through, you know, one of those major life changes of dropping out of school and realizing that I really wanted to work on a business idea, that I started to think about it. And over the years, as I've really played with these words, I've in fact tattooed them on my chest. I won't show it to you today because it's just a little awkward, but I've even branded myself with them. I've started to apply them to every aspect of my life, and most importantly, I've started to apply them to the work I do every day as an entrepreneur. This concept isn't really new. The idea of doing more and wanting less, there are a lot of really famous things you could sort of boil down to it. I mean, the one that always comes to my mind is JFK. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country, right? Ask for less, do more, right? Do more, want less. But it's very interesting when you start applying it to your everyday life and thinking about how if you do just a little more and you want just a little less, things tend to work out. And there's an emphasis on that little, right? I'm not saying you need to work yourself to a bone and want no money, right? I'm not saying you should wake up every day and push yourself to the brink and want nothing in return. I'm saying if you do just a little bit more, and you want just a little bit less, things tend to work out. And most importantly, for people here who are interested in entrepreneurship, how many students here have some interest in entrepreneurship? Okay, how many people in the crowd that aren't students would say that they're an entrepreneur, just out of curiosity? Okay, great. When I apply this to my work that I do every day, it seems to have totally changed the way that I approach what I do. Most importantly, and when I think about it from three really important angles. The first one is what I expect out of myself, right? When I go into work every day, I wake up and I think about how can I do more for my organization, how can I give a little bit more for my organization and expect less in return, right? Holding myself accountable to it. How can I do the same on my staff, right? How can I expect the people who work with me and the people who give me their time every day to do a little more and want a little less in return? And third, how can I do this for the students? So I run now, which is really interesting, I run an alternative university. I take 18 to 24-year-olds who are like myself, who can't seem to get their butts through school, and give them an alternative platform to do that through apprenticeships, right? Instead of putting them in the classroom, we put them to work. And we don't just put them to work at any type of job, we put them to work at high-growth companies, companies that you've probably heard of, companies like Bitly and Etsy and Tumblr, and they apprentice as those companies as an alternative or a supplement to their traditional education. And when we do that, one of the first things we always drive into them is this statement, right? Is if you're going to be successful in work and if you're going to be successful working for entrepreneurs, you need to come in with a mentality of doing more and wanting less. And I think it's really important for specifically you 22-year-olds who are graduating next month, or those who have already graduated and are in the workforce, is if you take this mentality of going into a job and saying, I'm willing to do a little more, and I'm willing to want a little less for what I do, and know that nothing is below me, right? And that as I'm a part of a team, I will do anything to make this team successful, you will find really early and really powerful success in that. Last sort of thing I want to talk about, and sort of to wrap it all up, is about a year ago, I got engaged. So about a year ago, almost over a year ago. Wow. I'm not getting married anytime soon because I'm just too lazy to plan a wedding. But about a year ago, I got engaged. And the day I proposed to my fiance, I'm like sort of one of those over-the-top people that has to be like really creative. Like I wanted my engagement to be on BuzzFeed, right? Like I was like, I got to get a BuzzFeed engagement. I'm not going to do something like romantic or personal. I'm going to do something crazy. It ended up in BuzzFeed, by the way, so it worked. So what we did is we woke up, my fiance was flying back from Bangkok, he's a diplomat, and I get all of our friends, our closest 15 friends, and I make them all wake up at 6 in the morning and meet me in Union Square. And the night before, I had bought like 18 2-foot by 3-foot posters, and I had spray painted individual letters, except for the word Chris, his name's Chris, "Will you marry me, Chris?" on these big posters. So WILL, and every friend has a letter that they're holding. I don't know why I didn't put a picture up here. It's a great picture, whatever. If you want to see the picture afterwards, I'll show it to you. But so I make all my friends meet me in Union Square. We get there, we have a limo come up. Limo grabs us all. It's 7 in the morning, so why shouldn't we have champagne? I'm about to propose to this person. He's getting off a 14-hour flight from Bangkok, so he's probably going to be upset and cranky and dirty and say no. So we all pile into this cab. My best friend, of course, the only time she's ever been late for anything ever in our life, she's late for my engagement. Like, people have to go bang on her door in the West Village to bring her. Get her in the limo, drive out there, get there. Of course, he's the last person off the plane ever. So we're standing there. The plane has landed for like a half an hour. He's texting me. I haven't seen him in 8 weeks because he had been in Bangkok. And so at this time, 2 250 people have crowded up, right? And they're standing behind us. And interestingly enough, his flight from Bangkok had a layover in Dubai. And interestingly enough, a lot of the people who were on his plane from Dubai happened to be rather conservative Muslims. And so they're walking up, and there's no offense to any of this because I'm actually Muslim as well, but they're walking up and they're coming up to me and they're saying, "Oh, Chris, she's such a lucky lady. We want to watch you propose to her." And the whole time I'm just thinking, oh my God, this is like not going to go well. And my friends are like, there are 250 Muslim men and women who are expecting this like white blonde-haired lady to walk out, and when this 6'2" black guy comes out the door, they're going to have a heart attack, right? And like, and mind you, we're all being so stereotypical, right? And no one is stopping to say like, well, maybe not. Like, who are we to judge? But who are we to say that that's how it's going to be? Anyway, so we're sitting there, and I'm getting more and more nervous. There's a dog there. There's a lot of things going on. So finally, he comes around the corner, and he's so out of it, he like is walking, and we're all standing there. And I mean, like, you walk into a wall of your best friends holding these massive signs. He doesn't even notice, like for the first like 10 seconds. And I'm just like shaking my head and sighing, and he like looks up, he's like, oh. And he like stops, and he like drops his luggage, and he like looks at me, and I'm like, and he's like, and then like he smiles and he runs towards me, and it's amazing and it's all fine. And he says yes, which is great. When I got down on one knee, my headphones got stuck around the dog's neck. It was awkward, but so I end up proposing, and we end up doing it. And we all get back into the limo, and we're driving home, and he looks at me and he goes, "That was really great." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, thanks." And he goes, "But you know what? Doesn't really go with your life motto, does it?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Doesn't really work with the like a little more, a little less thing." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Well," he's like, "you did a lot more," and he's like, "and you really were doing it for," like he called me out. This is like on the ride back. I just proposed to him. He said yes. He goes, "You did it for all the wrong reasons." He's like, "You didn't want less. You wanted more. And like you were happy and you loved us and you want all of our friends there, but when you proposed to me, you weren't doing it for how you want to live your life." And I was like, "Well, screw you. Like, I just did the most awesome proposal ever. Like, what are you talking about?" Until we got home that night, and we're sitting there, and I was like in the shower, and it was like really bothering me, and it was like, it wasn't a bad day at all. I mean, we were happy, and it was an amazing day. But I'm sitting there and I'm showering. And I thought to myself, and in the middle of my shower, which is how this always happens to me, is when I like have my like real talks to myself and like calm myself down. I like came to realize like this is a statement that I really care about and something that I think is really important, but I can't even live it every day, right? And I have it tattooed on my chest. I see it every day when I wake up. It sits right here. And I still have a hard time living that little more, little less. Just do a little more and want less. And it's the want less part that's really, really hard. So when I say these words, I say them with a very sincere appreciation for how hard it is to do it. And how even when something as important as your engagement can come up, you can really lose sight of what this means. But that it's really important to just do a little more and want a little less, because there's nothing in this world that can't make you happy if you do that. That's all I got.